Adaaaa! How's it going, guys? Jean-Paul Eck here, and this is your Monday Night Raw review. And this is the Fallout show from the last pay-per-view of the decade and the last pay-per-view of the year, TLC. And was it a good show? Should we expect WWE to get better moving forward? Yep, didn't think so. But let's get into it anyway. But before we do, I just want to thank all the new subscribers and all the support like we're getting on the channel each and every day. We're growing and we love it. And we just want to thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. And we promise that we'll keep growing as well. So, again, thank you all for the support. And the show opens up with highlights of last week's Monday Night Raw. Pretty much just what happened, the whole storyline with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, and then him teaming up with the AOP. Then the first thing we get is Rollins comes out. He introduces the first two men who will live on the right side of history. And then Akam and Razor of AOP. He says that how they always said that there was a future. How they always said he was the future. From his days in NXT and all the way up until he beat Brock Lesnar, they said, Seth Rollins is the future of WWE. And then he said all of a sudden the people started to question that. Things just changed. They started to question Seth. And Seth says being a leader isn't about being cool all the time. It's about making progress. He said everything that happened to Kevin was his own fault, and he acted out, and he was made an example of. Seth says he's always been truthful to the crowd, and he says that he's a leader. He says that he will lead his brand and his company into the next decade. He doesn't care if you are kicking and screaming, because he'll drag you along regardless, because the AOP will keep you in line. Seth says he has something he needs to do tonight, and he has a score to settle, and that he is sorry. And then Seth leaves the ring. Decent promo, so now we know why, a little bit more to why he's with the AOP. He's essentially, like he said, he's just using them as muscle, and he probably told them, since they have really didn't prove like an alliance to anybody, or they didn't really wrestle since the new gimmick change, he probably told them, you guys are with me or you're against me, and they were like, well, might as well team up with them. So it's really not a great reason why, but at least it's sort of a reason. And he said he had a score to settle and everything else, so it kept a little intrigue, to what might happen. Who is he talking about? I thought he meant Kevin Owens. I think that was the obvious choice. A lot of people thought it turned out to be somebody different, but a decent opening segment by Rollins. Like I said, I just would have liked to hear a little more explanation, but, everything he said was true, though. We did think Rollins was the future going into WrestleMania. When Rollins won the Royal Rumble last year, I was more hyped than I was before with Rollins. I was always a big fan of his, and then with that Royal Rumble, and then just at WrestleMania having to low blow Lesnar to beat him, that just left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, you couldn't beat him clean. And then, losing the title, having a crappy run, getting it back, and everything else, it just wasn't good. And then especially ever since he got it back, and then up until he lost it to The Fiend, he's just been so unbearable and just cringy. And so, he's not wrong. We did turn on him, but was he really being a leader? Going on Twitter and starting fights with Sasha Banks fans and all that other shit. Like, is that really being a leader, or are you just being a crybaby? So that's the whole thing. I wouldn't even say it's up for debate. He really wasn't a leader, but he has to say what he has to say. So then we get the first match of the night: the Viking Raiders versus the OC. And before this match starts, the OC is obviously introduced first, even though this is a non-title match. Which that kind of confused me why it was a non-title match. Unless, they're doing it to prolong the feud, but the match ended at TLC in a count-out, which that was a fuck-up. That shouldn't have been a count-out because Ivar, who is the legal man, dove out of the ring, and that should have broken up the 9 count instead of, having it continue. But so this, I feel, should have been a title match, but it wasn't. So they call out the Viking Raiders saying, we're the only team that beat you. We're the best, tag team in the world, yada, 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 all that shit. So then the Viking Raiders early on, they isolate Anderson. Eric slams Ivar onto Anderson. They do that spot. Multiple tags in by the Raiders. They're just keeping fresh. That was their MO the whole night, unless they were getting isolated, just quick tags. And that's what I really like to see in a tag team. Like the Revival does that as well. Just like instead of just one guy beating down a guy for 5-10 minutes, like the quick tags, it makes sense. And that just, I think, shows how good a tag team is. Brainbuster from Erick on Anderson. Anderson makes a tag after thumbing Erick in the eye. Gallows hits a fallaway slam on Erick onto the outside into the barricade. Then we get back from commercial and Anderson hits a spine buster on Erick for a 1 count. Gallows hits a big boot for a 2. Belly to back suplex onto Erick. Erick fights off Anderson and tags in Ivar. Ivar cleans house. He hits a Bronco Buster onto Anderson. Broken up by Gallows is the pin attempt. Cutter by Anderson stops Ivar, and then more tag team offense by the OC. Ivar fights back, double handspring elbow, and both of the Raiders, they hit middle rope dives onto the OC once they roll to the outside. Tag team offense by the OC after the commercial break. Ivar makes the hot tag. Huge knee strike onto Anderson. Gallows tags in and eats 2 huge knees from Erick. Gallows tags Anderson. Things break down at this point. Anderson gets knocked off to the apron, and Ivar misses a moonsault, and then they hit the Magic Killer on Ivar for the win. Great match, in my opinion, just like everything that went on. It was a really good match, and it would have been great if the OC would have been booked like this when they first came to WWE, this competitive, because nobody has had this of a competitive matches, these past 2 matches, the TLC match and this one with the Viking Raiders on the main roster. So, now they're making at least the OC look a little more legit. And there's probably going to be a lot of people who shit on this because, the Viking Raiders lost. Who are the OC? They're just fucking losers. Nobody cares. But it's like, yeah, but you're trying to make people care now. And also, the Viking Raiders, it wasn't like they had great feuds. Like, we love them because of NXT. If you look at them solely based on their main roster, they were stale. A loss actually refreshes them because now it's like, now they have something to prove. Yeah, they're the tag team champs, but now they lost when they were so unbeatable, and it's like, man, are we really kind of like the same thing like we'll get into with Becky Lynch later on in the night? It's like, are they really the champs? Like, do they really deserve to have the belts? So it's just something to actually build a feud, because before their gimmick was they just squash teams in 2 minutes and done. So I don't really shit on this as much as a lot of other people do. Like I said, it was a good match, and I do like the OC. They've just been booked so badly that, people are, not expected to care about them. Then after this, we get Rowan. He gets interviewed about what's in his cage. He asks, I think it was Sarah Schreiber, I think her name was. He asks her if she has someone who she loves. She says yes, and then he asks her some more questions, like, someone who you care about, who you trust, blah, blah, blah. And then he says for her to mind her own business. So I was a little unsure if that promo meant like, if you have these people who you love and worry about, you should mind your own business or else you'll never see them again? Or did he mean that those type of people who you love and care about and all that, is that someone he has in the cage? Like, I was a little confused, but I'm not surprised by that. Erick Rowan is not that good of a promo. So then we get the Styles and the OC. They're all celebrating this huge win, and he says, don't worry, boys, like, I'm going to beat Randy Orton tonight. And they're like, yeah, we'll come out, we'll come out and help. And he's like, no, I didn't come out your match. I want to do this myself. Like, I don't need your help, guys. Like, it's all good. So that's the one thing I liked. We were going to get a clean match. It was, going to be no bullshit, hopefully, because, they're heels, so they can just change their mind, run down anyway. But, like, a lot of people, we always say, like, a heel doesn't always need to cheat. Like Andrade, he didn't need Zelina Vega to help him every single time. You can do stuff, you can win clean as a heel and still come off as a heel. So then we get Erick Rowan versus Dante Leon. So obviously this, just a jobber. So this clown is running around trying to hide from Rowan. He runs under the ring and Rowan chases him. He pops out on the other side, and that's where the cage is sitting on the steps on that side, closest to the ramp. So he goes to look in what's in there. Rowan comes, runs him down, throws him in the ring, 2 claw choke slams, and done. And I'm pretty much done after this point. I could care less about this storyline now. Like I said, with Erick Rowan, you had the intrigue with the Daniel Bryan and all that on SmackDown. Luke Harper's a free man, Thank you. Now he can do what this guy was destined to do, and that's wrestle and not just sit in catering. But Erick Rowan was the one who benefited the most from Luke Harper. He benefits from being with someone who is over and who is talented. Luke Harper was over with, the actual fans. He wasn't over with just the casual audience, but he wasn't over with Vince McMahon, so that's why he's done. But, when you put him with Daniel Bryan, he was over and he was, people liked him. But now just in this singles role and in this stupid, this bird cage or pet cage, whatever it is with the cloth over it, to me, if you had 3 weeks of this and now you're dragging out too long, it's because they don't even know what's in there. They're backstage like, oh fuck, what's in the cage? We don't know. So they're fucking clueless. So it's like this storyline is stupid. Nobody cares, and I really don't care either. So after that, we get Charlie. She interviews Andrade about the gauntlet match for the U.S. Championship. She says that also in the match is Humberto, who, he lost to Humberto at the TLC pre-show, which was a great match. Andrade speaks in Spanish and he walks away. And Zelina calls out Charlie and says that now they will take Humberto seriously, after what happened, and they will win this gauntlet match. Then we get a video package about a returning Liv Morgan. She kind of pretty much just said how she was always just doing what other people told her and not really being herself and this and that. It just shows her in a bathtub and shit. So it's okay, just is this who you want? Yourself is just sexy. So you're just is that what you're gonna be? Or are you actually gonna wrestle? Or I would like to see something a little more serious. I don't know what the gimmick is. Like I said, I was excited to see her come back because it just would have been a new woman added in the women's division to hopefully be more than just the same 4 women. But then this video package didn't really do too much for me, but we'll see how it is when she comes back. Then we get Lashley and Lana. They come out, so, everybody's favorite segment of the show, of course. Lana says how Lashley beat Rusev yesterday. She says how he just keeps saying how hot, her new boyfriend is, Bobby Lashley, all this other, the same old annoying bullshit cringe she always says. The crowd's really shitting on her, booing the hell out of her. They start a Rusev Day chant, and then she asks Bobby to show her how much he loves her, and then she asks him to ask her to marry him. And Bobby said he doesn't like when anyone tells him what to do, and then he pauses. And I thought for a split second, I'm like, I would love the heel turn. But I would love if it was he, or at least turned on her, and she then cried for Rusev, and then Rusev Machka kicked her or something. That would have been badass. But of course he says, I don't like when anyone tells me what to do, except for you. And then he gets on one knee and he says how they'll be the most amazing power couple. She's the most talented woman in the WWE. So again, building up that heel heat because she's fucking awful. He asks her to marry him. Lana says yes and freaks out. Again, super annoying, super cringy. And I'm sure next week, or probably they'll probably save it for the first Monday Night Raw of the new year just to really fucking dig that dagger in there how much WWE sucks. They're probably going to do the wedding on that Raw, but it's definitely going to be coming soon, and then that's probably when we'll see the return of Rusev. So then they show some clips of the opening segment from Rollins and the members of the Gauntlet match. So we have R-Truth, Akira Tozawa, Matt Hardy, Andrade, and Humberto Carrillo. So Matt Hardy, loser, not in my opinion. I love Matt Hardy, but since his return, you presented him as a loser. He's lost 2 or 3 times now. No wins, no nothing, no momentum. Akira Tozawa. Exact same thing I said about Matt Hardy. I'm going to say it with him. R-Truth. The 24/7, 7-Eleven, United States Championship, whatever he says, our television title. He's the same thing. He's a loser. No offense, the last thing he did was when he held the U.S. title on SmackDown, and then I think he dropped it in that 4-way match. I think Samoa Joe won that, or Rey Mysterio won it, and then Samoa Joe, something like that. Too much bullshit to remember. I try to forget it, but some of it sticks. But again, so you have 3 guys who are essentially proverbial losers on this show, and then you have Andrade, who's who's legit and who has wins. Humberto, who now has, what, 2 wins just over Andrade. He might have won some singles match before that, but I don't remember. I just remember him getting his ass beat over and over. And we have Ricochet, who's the same thing, who probably has a ton of matches under his belt, but more losses than wins. So we get all these guys in a gauntlet match. R-Truth comes out first, and again, the crowd is really behind R-Truth, and I like him too. He's funny, he's a decent wrestler for his age and stuff. He still has some legit moves, and like I said, he's great on the mic. He can get the crowd going. He was coming out singing his song, and adding a little flair to it, changing some of the lyrics. And like I said, we're just talking about how he's the 24/7, 7-Eleven, television champion, all that. Then Akira Tozawa, he comes out. Tozawa hits a senton off the apron onto Truth, missile drop kick for a 2 count on Truth, and Tozawa rolls up Truth, and that was, it was just really quick. There wasn't, like, Truth got a little bit of offense, but they were just trying, it was obviously they were trying to trim the fat. So then, of course, when Tozawa rolls up Truth, out come the whole 24/7 parade of losers. Fortunately, my boy, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, and then all the other jobbers, No Way Jose, they all come out, and they're chasing down R-Truth as he runs off. So, excuse me. So that's pretty much, again, that's what they didn't present him in a serious manner. They said that the 24/7, rules were suspended during this match. But you couldn't even give R-Truth couldn't give these guys 5, 6, 7 minutes, decent showing, and then he just walks to the back. You had to make the Job Squad run out, chase him down. We're just sick of seeing it. Like, nobody cares anymore. Maybe the kids pop for it, but is that really, are the kids going out and buying the 24/7 championship belt at Walmart and Toys R Us? No. So then after that, Ricochet comes out next, and Tozawa keeps advantage over Ricochet. He tries to dive, but Ricochet counters with a drop kick. Ricochet slows things down, actually, because commentary was just trying to sell how fast and agile and everything Ricochet is. Tozawa is just, he actually is faster than Ricochet, so it's better if Ricochet tries to slow him down. So he's, wearing him down, submissions and stuff on, like, arm, like, digging his knee into his shoulder and stuff. Tozawa tries to submit Ricochet, but he counters with a head kick. Tozawa hits that slow bridging German suplex for a 2 count. Ricochet starts to mount a comeback from here, but Tozawa takes over again, and he tries for a senton, but Ricochet dodges the senton, and he hits the recoil for the pin. Then after that, out comes Matt Hardy. And immediately, just like in his match with Drew McIntyre, he hits a side effect for a 2 count on the Ricochet. Hardy's in complete control from this point. He hits a suplex, a back body drop for a 2 count on the Ricochet. Ricochet tries to fight back, but eats a crucifix powerbomb for a 2 count. Ricochet mounts a comeback. Crucifix, I think it was like a sit-out powerbomb. Ricochet mounts a comeback, but Matt Hardy counters into a side effect for a near fall. Hardy misses the moonsault, and Ricochet hits the standing shooting star press for a 2 count. Matt Hardy tries for a twist of fate, but Ricochet rolls up Hardy for the pin. And the crowd at this point was shitting on Ricochet, because like I said, the crowd loves him, I love him. If you're a wrestling fan with any common sense, you love Matt Hardy as well. Everything that he's done for this business and reinventing himself, he's right like Jericho. Everybody wants to praise Jericho for reinventing himself, but everything that Matt Hardy's been given, in WWE, when they change his gimmick and take him away from from Jeff, and everything they do, he's been able to present the best version of himself, no pun intended, with like the version 1 and broken, but he's been able to make the best of it. So, and when he has his own creative freedom, he can reinvent himself and be even better than anybody thought possible. So the crowd is really behind him, as they should be, but WWE, they just see no value in him. So when Ricochet, he rolled up Hardy, like I said, they were just really booing him, and you feel bad for Ricochet because he doesn't deserve that. But again, that just proves that it's all about booking. It's all how you book people. People want to shit on individual talents, but you could make anybody look good if you book them correctly, and that's where WWE doesn't know what they're doing. So then Humberto, he comes out next. Obviously, I didn't like the order. I feel like you should have did something where Now, again, I know you're not trying to bury guys, and Ricochet was the Iron Man of this. He was definitely in here the longest. So that Ricochet looks good in that sense. But if you're really trying to build Humberto, I would have had Humberto come out and like first, and it would have been him, and then he beats Truth, and then has a good match with, have him last a long time or something, or maybe have him come out second, get R-Truth out of there, and then have Tozawa beat Truth, and then Humberto come out. Because to me, it's like when Humberto, when we saw the order the way it was, you knew it was going to be Humberto and Andrade, so the gauntlet match was pretty much predictable. So to start this thing, Ricochet tries for 2 roll-ups. Oh, hold on, lost myself here in the notes. Ricochet tries 2 roll-up attempts. Tons of fast-paced action right in the beginning. Humberto hits a tope onto Ricochet on the outside, and then back in the ring, Humberto keeps the advantage up. He wears down Ricochet's arm. He tries for a handspring, but Humberto kicks out his arm. Humberto knees Ricochet and beats him down. Sunset flip for a 2 count onto Humberto. Zelina comes out as both men lay on the mat. More back and forth. Springboard clothesline and a running shooting star press for a 2 count onto Humberto. Drop kick on Ricochet for a 2 count. Humberto misses a moonsault. Exchange of kicks by both men. They tumble to the outside. Both men make it back in at a 9 count. Ricochet knocks out Humberto on the top rope. Suplex by Ricochet for a 2 count. Both men exchange punches. 2 suplexes by Ricochet for a 2 count. Ricochet rolls through a Hurricane Rana but takes a Canadian Destroyer. And then Humberto hits his moonsault for the win. So like I said, we knew where this was going. Decent match between these two into the gauntlet match. Zelina obviously came out, tried to distract Humberto. Didn't work, so again, it was kind of weird, kind of pointless. But I guess, she is standing there, but no, this really didn't even make sense either, because it's, the superstars would have came down there regardless. Whether Zelina was standing there because you get, Humberto's just staring at the ramp, waiting for Andrade, but Andrade comes from the back. So he jumps Humberto from behind, beats him down, hits 2 double knees, and sends him to the outside. When he's laying there, Andrade picks up the floor mat, exposing the concrete, and he delivers the hammerlock DDT. And at this point, I was thinking, okay, this is done. He's going to throw him back in there, pin him, and we're going to get Rey versus Andrade, the match we all wanted to see. But Rey comes out at this point. He checks on Humberto, and Humberto gets stretchered out. And then, the match really just there was no winner. It wasn't like, like there wasn't like, see, that's the thing where we need the commissioner figure. There's no authority figure. There's no, and I don't like, not Triple H, not someone like that, like Foley or Angle. When we had someone like that, like William Regal would have came out at this point and he would have addressed this if this was an NXT or something like that. Instead, we just get it open. There's no. The commentary team, they're just as clueless as we are. There was no thing like, Andrade. I don't think they said he was DQ'd. The match just kind of ended. I mean, it probably was a DQ. Like if you check like the Raw results on like the website or something, it probably says that it ended in a DQ. But so essentially, you're just saying this gauntlet match was pointless because there was no winner. So you just filled up a huge chunk of time for nothing. Let's take 2 guys who were feuding, and then a bunch of random other guys, throw them in this gauntlet match, and it means nothing. That's essentially what you just did. Like I said, we saw some good action in it, but to me, if it doesn't mean anything, I'm just going to forget about these good matches in 2 days from now. If the story's not there, and it doesn't, do anything, then there's no point. So then after that, where are we here? So yeah, out comes Rollins then at this point with the AOP. Mysterio's still out there in the ring, and they start to beat down Mysterio, and Rollins says he doesn't need to fight his boys. And then, because like when they get in the ring, Mysterio's kind of looking around thinking they're going to pick a fight with him, so they kind of all start beating him down, and he's like, whoa, 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 you don't need to pick a fight with him. And he gives Rey back his metal pipe. And, he's like, you gave this to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens tried to use this on me. So, This is like, you're against me, you're with Kevin Owens. And the AOP starts to beat Ray again. And like I said, he said, oh, you gave this pipe to Kevin Owens, and that's why you're getting beat down like this. And he says, but you know what? He's not like that. He's a good guy. He's a leader. So, and he says it's Ray's lucky night, but Ray owes him one. So they stop the beatdown and they go to leave the ring. And as they're going to leave the ring, Rollins, of course, turns around like he did with Kevin Owens, delivers the stomp, and done. So we still don't know what this favor is that Ray apparently owes him. Now we know what he said he had a score to settle. So it was for Rey Mysterio giving Kevin Owens the metal pipe. So then we get Charlie Caruso. She asked Seth Rollins why he did what he did to Ray. And he said he had a score to settle and that he's a leader. He says that the only reason he didn't put Ray in the hospital was because he wants to face him next week for the United States Championship. And there it is, folks. There it is. So we sat through this gauntlet match, like I said. We saw some great action. Don't get me wrong. Pointless, because here we just get Seth Rollins, who does nothing. He lost to the Fiend, and then, he's done nothing. He gets, loses at Survivor Series, gets pinned by Keith Lee. And he's like, oh, I can just challenge for a United States Championship because I got Akam and Razor with me, and they'll just beat you down if you say no. That's the one thing I didn't really understand. So, like again, I said you wasted our time at a gauntlet match, and then it's all just for Seth Rollins. So, shitty writing, shitty booking. Why didn't you just break the gauntlet match up into singles matches, give us some good action, and then we could have considered this, oh, this is just, they're building their mid-card now. They're getting these guys ready. Instead, you tried to make it for something, and then we're like, haha, this isn't for the championship match at all, because Seth Rollins is just going to step in there. So that was really dumb in my opinion. Then we get Randy Orton. He says tonight he faces AJ Styles, and he said if he's forgotten who he is, he'll remind him with the 3 most devastating letters in the WWE, RKO. So then we get highlights from the women's tag team match on Sunday. And, just kind of going over everything that happened. And then they say that Asuka will be in singles competition tonight. And she's going against NXT superstar Deonna Purrazzo. Which, if you've seen any matches of Asuka back when she was in NXT, this is pretty much the same thing. But it was a decent showing, and it was nice, Deonna was able to make her Raw debut. She's not really featured too much on NXT television, I don't think. I think she's mostly just doing the house shows and stuff, but she was on NXT beforehand, and she's another one of those women who's, really talented. It's just unfortunate because they have so much people in NXT. It's like, what do you do with them? But Purrazzo, she attacks Asuka before the bell with a pump kick, sending her to the outside. Then they go to the commercial break. And then when we get back, Asuka, she just starts out strong after that. A bunch of forearms, kicks, 2 hip attacks by Asuka. She attempts a cutter, but Purrazzo counters into a Fujiwara armbar. Asuka escapes and tries for some submissions of her own, but Purrazzo elbows herself free, hits a reverse STO for a 2 count. Asuka then hits some big kicks, the Asuka lock, and done. Like I said, wasn't really like that great of a showing for Purrazzo, but she did a little bit. This was mostly just to rebuild Asuka back up into that singles role. And also to report, Kairi Sane did come out with Asuka, but she did suffer a concussion on Sunday. Becky Lynch and Asuka both tweeted something about it. So she was concussed, so they're probably not going to have her wrestle for a little bit. So this just all fits into their plans, how they wanted to do singles feud with Asuka and Becky. Like we said, that's been rumors for another Royal Rumble rematch. And that looks like the way they're going, because after that, Charlie, she asked Becky how she feels after the loss to the Kabuki Warriors, how she's, missed her opportunity to be Becky 2 belts again. And Becky said that, for the past couple months, she's been off her game. She thought it was the powers that be that were burying her, putting her in the tag team division instead of letting her be, a singles competitor, because she is the Raw Women's Champion. But she said it's actually worse than that. She said they're protecting her. Becky says that they're protecting her from Asuka because Becky is the cash cow. She's the number 1 woman, not only for the brand, being their champion, but she's the number one for merchandise and draw and ticket sales and everything like that. So she says, even though we know all that stuff's down, but that's what happens when you have a black t-shirt with white text that says the man and you charge $30 for it. They are scared that, that they're going to lose all that because they know that Asuka can beat her. So she's saying that they're protecting her and not having her face Asuka in a one-on-one match for the championship. Then Charlie asks what she would say to some of the fans who think Asuka should be champion. And she says normally it's her opponents that need her and then to face her. But she said this time it's different. She needs to face Asuka to prove to those fans that she deserves to be champion, and she's the only woman that Becky has never beaten. And then I believe it was this. I actually forgot to put it in the notes, but Rey Mysterio, he accepted Seth Rollins' challenge like an idiot. He, should have pretty much said like, you beat me down, you attacked me. Like, why do you think I'm gonna fight you? But he pretty much says that, that he's, he would face Andrade, but he's going after Rollins. Rollins is someone who he's never faced before, who, he's never wrestled, but when he does wrestle him, he'll beat him. He has a lot of people who are gunning for him and this and that, but, he'll beat them all. Just a generic babyface promo from Mysterio. I do like Mysterio. I'm not, obviously he's my boy, but, I would have been like, no, Rollins, like, fuck you, dude. I'm not like, you just beat me down. Like, you and your goons, you think I'm going to, wrestle you, but again, like I'm not going to reiterate, is that this show is just, you wasted so much of this show when you could have just gotten from point A to point B, but you had to go through, C through Z. But then we get Randy Orton versus AJ Styles in the main event. Orton starts off some punches and Styles into the corner. Styles ducks through the ropes to get out to stop Orton from his assault. AJ tries to attack Orton. Orton attempts an RKO, but Styles dodges it by going out of the ring. Some back and forth. Orton suplexes Styles onto the apron. Styles is beat down outside the ring. And then back in the ring, it's the same thing. Styles attempts a springboard move and gets caught. Orton tries for the draping DDT, but Styles manages to counter it into a calf crusher. Orton is in the hold for a while, until he can finally get the rope break. And then Orton rolls out of the ring, and Styles meets him there with a chop block. Then we come back from commercial. Styles remains in control until Orton pokes him in the eyes and is able to get a breather. Both men hit some punches, an uppercut from Orton. Styles hits the ropes, and Orton meets him with a snap power slam. Headlock backbreaker by Orton. Styles is set onto the top rope, but AJ is able to counter the superplex attempt. He hits a lion salt for a 2 count. Styles attempts a Styles clash, but Orton counters. He hits the draping DDT this time, and then he goes for the RKO, but Styles is able to counters him into a calf crusher. I think he got the rope break. I don't think he let it go. I know he had to readjust and re-grab the hold, but I think Randy Orton was able to grab the ropes again. And then at this point, Styles is on the outside, and he's gonna go for the phenomenal forearm. And then Orton, he teases the RKO, and AJ Styles fakes him out. And then once Randy Orton looks like he's tripped from attempting the RKO, Styles then goes for the forearm, but Orton is able, as he's falling down, to reach up and hit the RKO, but it was a really weak looking RKO. Again, Kevin Dunn kind of saved it with the camera angle they switched to, but it was still a very weak looking RKO. I don't even think he actually got his hands around Styles' neck, but he was able to hit him for the win. And then after the match, the OC, they run down and they start beating the shit out of Randy Orton. And then we hear the Viking Raiders music. They come down, they start beating down Orton as well. They try to make the save, but the OC is able to beat them down, and they stand tall as Monday Night Raw goes off the air. And unlike last week, where the show just ended abruptly, this week they actually had some overrun. So that was your Monday Night Raw TLC Fallout show review. Was it a good show? again, at the top of the review, shook my head. Absolutely not. There were some good moments, but for me, the gauntlet match, again, besides the participants, half of them not even deserving to be there, it was still a decent match. And then obviously Andrade, when he hit the hammerlock, I thought, okay, we're getting what we want. At least this meant something. And then, of course, Ray comes out and it's a DQ or whatever they ruled it. And then, of course, it means nothing. And then we get Seth Rollins just challenging him next week, which I'm not going to try to avoid the spoilers, but it's the internet, so I probably will see them. Raw was taped because they're not going to have these guys wrestle on, close to Christmas and stuff, so I don't know what they're going to do. You know, Seth Rollins, I hope he doesn't win, because if he beats Rey Mysterio, the logical thing would be that he's going to lose it to Kevin Owens. And is that really that's what you want to do? You want to put this belt on Kevin Owens instead of, having him beat Brock Lesnar and then just get Lesnar out of WWE. I'm sick of him. If he's not going to be on the shows, just get him out of here. Matt Riddle just fucking kick his, throat in and be done with it. Like, I'm so sick of this guy. And, this title should be for guys like Andrade, Humberto, Ricochet, Matt Hardy. They should be the ones who should be getting this title. Rey Mysterio. You have so many guys in the mid card. Like I said, you could have split this gauntlet match into singles matches and did all this stuff. If you want to have Mysterio feud with Rollins for this next couple weeks until Kevin Owens comes back and can resume his feud with Rollins, that's fine. But you didn't need to have a gauntlet match that just meant nothing. And, like they said, it's like, just enjoy the good match, enjoy the good that was in it. Because, like I did say, there was a lot of good spots and good individual matches within the gauntlet match. But, they hype it up and all this stuff like it's going to be so good and mean so much. And then it just meant nothing just for Seth Rollins, who's did nothing, just like this gauntlet match, to challenge for the belt. So that's just my only gripe. Like I said, they just insult your intelligence so much and they expect you to forget things from one segment to the other. But, that was the review, and, I'm sure Raw's going to be the same thing next week. They just don't try to get better. Thank God we have NXT. And AEW has, consistent good shows. NXT's, their storylines and everything they do is so great, and so we can just hang our hat on that. But as always, guys, again, I want to thank you all for watching, subscribing. We appreciate all the support we get from you guys. And we will see you hopefully with a video tonight. We're going to be going over the Broken Skull Sessions episode 2 with Goldberg. And if you haven't, check out all the stuff we have on the channel. NWA Into the Fire. We have TLC. And, of course, we have all the weekly shows. And we'll continue to bring them Thursday morning. We'll have Dynamite. Thursday night NXT. Friday night SmackDown, of course. So stay tuned for all that. And as always, guys, thank you. Adaaaa.